When we were learning English in school, we paid a lot of attention to the International Phonetic Alphabet. You know, how to pronounce the vowels, how to pronounce the consonants, where to put the stress on words, and there's a good reason for that. Without knowing how to pronounce them, nobody will understand you. But did you know that there's another feature of pronunciation that is just as important as the International Phonetic Alphabet, but we don't pay as much attention to? And that is intonation. Intonation describes how the voice rises and falls in speech. When we hear the word intonation, we automatically think of rising and falling intonation. But did you know that there are at least 5 main intonation and tones? And if you're currently improving your English, you need to pay attention to these 5 intonation patterns, and they're the following. So the first one, of course, is the falling intonation or the down tone. We use this tone at the very end of a sentence when we want to make a statement, or especially when we want to say something definite. For example, my name is Candace. I want to go to college. She loves reading. I'll be back in an hour. Another time when we use the down tone is, you're going to be surprised, is when we're asking WH and H questions. That's a surprise because, at least for me, when I was in school, I was taught that all types of questions should end with a rising intonation at the end. But no, it doesn't actually work like that. For example, what's your name? It sounds like there's a rising intonation at the very end, but it actually looks like this in reality. What's your name? Nay, that's the highest part. That's the highest pitch. But eventually, at the very end, it goes down. What's your name? It's not what's your name, but what's your name? Or what's your name? Name. The rising intonation or the uptone. Now, this is where some types of questions belong. For example, are you out of your mind? Now, this question is unanswerable by yes or no. So technically, questions that are answerable by yes or no, or tag questions, should be delivered with an uptone. Are you out of your mind? Is your name Sarah? It's not, is your name Sarah? It's not, are you out of your mind? Also, you use uptone when you want to signal to your listener that you have something more to add. For example, if you do that again, I'm not going to forgive you. So I'm not going to forgive you. I'm not going to forgive you is downtone. But before that, if you do that again, that's uptone. If you hear that, you instinctively know that the speaker has something more to say. Uptone is also used when you want to signal politeness or you want to sound friendly to your listener. For example, the opening spiel, hi, my name is Candace. My name is Candace. This is a declarative sentence. You could say, my name is Candace. But if you want to sound friendly when you're opening the call, you can say, hi, my name is Candace. And that's also acceptable. And when you watch English movies, you're definitely going to hear uptone used on declarative sentences, and that's normal. But remember that while using uptone might make you sound friendly and polite and approachable, it's never good to overuse it. For example, here's what's going to happen to your statement when you use uptone every single time. Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm a hiker. Last year, I went to the Grand Canyon. It was amazing. I met a lot of cool people. Now, obviously, I'm overdoing it, but when you're in situations where you have to establish your authority, you might want to refrain from using uptalk a lot. It's okay to sprinkle uptone here and there for variation, but when you use it almost 80% of your speech, that's not a good idea. No. Instead of saying it like that, you can say, Hi, my name is Sarah. I'm a hiker. Last year, I went to the Grand Canyon. It was amazing. I met a lot of cool people. So here, there are more downtones than uptones, and this is usually what you want to go for when you want to sound polite and friendly and engaging, but at the same time, you still want to display that confidence. The across tone. You use this tone when you want to signal to your listener that there's something more to add, sort of like up talk, but they sound different. Also, when you're stating a list, for example, I need to pay my rent, internet, car, mortgage, insurance. So if you notice here that I need to pay my rent, it's not it's not rent, but just in the middle. People also say this when they want to be casual and they're stating a sequence. For example, I wanted to buy some cheese, but it was not available. So I went to Angela's and it took a long time to finish because there were too many customers. Another time that you should use an across tone is when you want to express hesitation. For example, well, I think it's not a good idea. I think it's not a good idea. It's a downtone, but the well is definitely an across tone. Well, it's not going up, it's not going down, it's just in the middle. So, and you get the point. The down up tone. So, this is a falling intonation followed by a rising intonation. It's nice, but it's not my thing. So, but it's not my thing is a down tone. But it's nice is definitely a down up tone. If we play it in slow motion, it would sound like this. It's nice, nice. This happens when we want to express hesitation or reservation. It's nice. Yeah, just remember that. It's kind of funny. Another example, we like the design. However, the color is a little flashy. So the color is a little flashy, is a downtone, but we like the design. Design. We like the design. However, the color is a little flashy. Another one. She's not the smartest person in the room. Try it. She's not the smartest person in the room, but she's charming. Room, but she's charming. The up-down tone. This starts with a rising intonation followed by a falling intonation. We use this tone when we want to convey intense emotion or enthusiasm, or we want to add emphasis. For example, it's crazy. It's crazy. Now there are two ways that you could deliver this. You could use a down tone where you can say it's crazy, and that would still be correct. But when too much emotion is involved, you don't just say it's crazy. You say it's crazy, crazy. So you use, in this case, the up down tone. Another example, it's great. It's great. You can say it's great. But with enthusiasm, you can say it's great. What do you want? That's a down tone and that's a question. But if you want to say it to, say, like a stalker, and you're just scared and emotional about it, you can say, what do you want? What do you want? So there's a spike there, but eventually it goes down. And that shows an intense emotion. Another example is, what's your name? That's a down tone. But if you want to show someone that you're super interested in him, you can say, what's your name? What's your name? That's also showing that you're approachable or you're just interested and curious. Another thing is you can say why. That's a down tone. But if you're concerned about someone, you say why? 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 So that's up down. In intonation is super important with language learning because it helps you with listening, speaking, and retention. And these are the factors that help you become fluent in a language. For me to explain that, I want to show you an activity. Now, this is a particularly long sentence, right? When you read that, I don't think you would ever have any problem understanding this as long as you understand what each word means. But if you deliver this sentence verbally, then it is very important for the speaker to know exactly when to pause, where to pause, and how to divide this long sentence into sense groups. Sense group. What is sense group, by the way? Sense groups are small, coherent units that start and end with a pause. This is kind of like your punctuation when you're speaking, because when you're writing and reading, you see a period, you stop, you see a comma, you stop. But when speaking, it's not that simple. That is why you use pauses, and within these pauses are the sense groups. In this sentence, the sense groups would look like this. I think that's one sense group, and aiming to climb the corporate ladder, another sense group, without having any motivation other than money is a recipe for burnout. Okay, so if we count, there are there are 5 sense groups in this sentence. And we use sense groups so that as a listener, it's easier to understand the speaker. And as a speaker, it's easier for the speaker to gather his or her thoughts. We have to pause after each sense group. And we have to use, this is where the intonation comes in. We have to use a specific intonation for each sense group to make it easier for the brain to understand what you're saying. Okay, here's how it is. With the first sense group, you say, I think that's an across tone. I think that it means that I have something more to say. I think that, so your listener knows exactly that he should keep quiet because there's something more. So I think that across tone, aiming to climb the corporate ladder, another across tone, without having any motivation. Third across tone, other than money, that is an uptone. Other than money, uptone. And is a recipe for burnout. That's a downtone. So in this particular sentence, there are 3 across tones, 1 uptone, and 1 downtone. Let's do it again. I think that aiming to climb the corporate ladder without having any motivation other than money is a recipe for burnout. This is more coherent than just, I think that aiming to climb the corporate ladder without having any motivation other than money is a recipe for burnout. So this is what happens when your voice is monotone as well, because there's barely any pause and there's barely a difference in intonation. So in this case, intonation is super important when you want to be understood, which is basically what you want in a communication, right? You want to understand, and you also want to be understood. And in this case, intonation plays a huge role. So when you're listening to a speaker with a well-pronounced intonation, it's just more engaging and the message is clear because it gives your brain time to process this sense group before proceeding to another. So in this case here, you're not overloading the brain. It would look like this. The speaker says, I think that, and then your brain goes something like, oh, okay, I understand that. And what next? Aiming to climb the corporate ladder. Okay, that's a little longer, but I still understand. Go ahead. Pause, and without having any motivation. Okay, got that. Other than money, okay, got that, is a recipe for burnout. And the next thing you know, you understand a long sentence. Case in point, did you notice that reporters on both televisions and radios enunciate their words clearly? But at the same time, you would also notice that they actually also have a clear sense of intonation, and that's very important for message clarity. Intonation helps in speaking because it gives your brain a break to think about what to say next. According to a language journal here, which I'm going to link below if you want a deeper read, we can usually repeat a random string of 3, 4, or 5 words per sense group, but not a string of 10. 10 is very long. So this is why we need sense groups and intonation to make sense of people's statements. When you're the speaker and you're speaking this sentence out of your head, the thought process looks like this. I think that, pause, and then you think, aiming to climb the corporate ladder, and then you pause and think again, without having any motivation, and then you pause and then think again, other than money. And then you pause and think again, and then you deliver your final conclusion. Is a recipe for burnout. So yeah, that's really helpful when you want to express a very complicated thought, but you want to fit all of them in one sentence, and it's a complicated message. Intonation helps you divide the sentence into units, group of words. Now, because of that, you're not learning word for word. You're learning them by sense group or by units, bigger units than individual words. As a result, you're learning them in bigger chunks, so it's a more efficient way to retain the language and use it for later. And you're also learning the context at the same time, meaning you get a feel of how each word functions with other words, because words are not standalone. They have to exist in harmony with other words. The problem with non-native English speakers learning any target language is that we learn mainly by reading and writing. As a result, we tend to use the intonation of our vernacular language to the point of making our message hard to understand or even unintelligible, even if our grammar is correct. Think of intonation like punctuations when you're reading and writing. When you're reading and writing, we see periods, we see commas, we see the division of space, we see spaces between paragraphs to indicate that this one is one group and this is another. So when speaking and listening, intonation, sense groups, and pauses are the equivalent of punctuations. And you might also ask, okay, now that we learn the 5 intonation patterns, why can't we just keep reading and writing to learn the language? We already know how they sound, so why can't we just keep reading and writing to learn a language? Well, the answer is, according to this journal, which I'm going to link again below, is it is impossible to classify in any practical analysis of intonation all the fine shades of feeling and attitude which can be conveyed by slight changes in pitch, by lengthening or shortening tones, by increasing or decreasing the loudness of the voice, by changing its quality, and in various other ways. So, simply put, there might be 5 distinguishable intonation patterns, but there are variations that are just so minute in detail that they're hard to distinguish or classify, but they exist. So sure, you might know the 5 main intonation patterns, but unless you listen to native English speakers speak in daily conversation, you're not going to be able to understand the nuance or get intimate with these other variations that are currently unclassified. So just learn it. That's all. All right, that's all for today. And in my next video, I'm going to talk about tip number 2, which is language shadowing. And this is related to speaking. So stay tuned. And once it's ready, I'm going to link it up here. All right, bye.